Today I want to talk about the idea that psychosis itself, this thing that we diagnose as psychosis, can actually be a kind of passage as well. And today I want to share 5 stories about my own recovery, 5 stories from my own recovery, and then flip those stories around and talk about how we can learn from those stories and apply the lessons learned to our ongoing work. But let me start with a couple of very basic definitions of recovery that I work with. Recovery is a pathway into the life I want for myself. It's not really rocket science. Recovery is a pathway into the life I want for myself. And also, I think my favorite, for some, recovery means having a job, a paycheck, and a date on Friday night. Recovery is about getting the life I want to live. I experienced my first psychosis during high school. I was a really good athlete in high school, loved to play all kinds of sports, tennis and basketball and lacrosse and field hockey. And my idea for my life, my big dream, was that I was going to become a women's athletic coach and basically get paid for playing sports. That was my big plan. However, during the winter break between Christmas and New Year's, I was working out with my basketball team, and I began to have a series of extremely strange experiences. The first thing I can remember noticing was that I seemed to have lost my sense of depth perception. I was on the basketball court playing with my team, and I couldn't seem to judge the distance of the ball, and I couldn't coordinate my motion and my movements with my teammates. I was kind of bumping and stumbling and just terribly uncoordinated, which was, of course, very unusual for me. My coach noticed the difference, suggested that perhaps it wasn't a good day and I just needed to take a break. So I headed into the locker room, and things just continued to accelerate fairly quickly. I began to hear very distressing voices that were saying evil and mean and cruel and humiliating things about me. They seemed to be all-knowing and all-powerful, like there was nothing I could do to shut them out. Within short order, I began to suspect that people around me were changing, that something I didn't quite know about was going on. I began to get really obsessed with why have people's teeth been replaced with flat-headed screwdriver tips, and what's going on around me. I became very frightened, barricading myself in rooms and generally frightening my younger brothers and sisters. And to make a long story short, within fairly short order, my family, brought me to a clinic, and within a short time I was admitted to a psychiatric unit. And once on the psychiatric unit, I was pretty quickly interviewed and diagnosed with schizophrenia. During that first hospitalization, my team said to me, "Miss Deegan, you have a disease called schizophrenia." They said, "Schizophrenia is a disease that's a lot like diabetes. Just like a person with diabetes will have to take insulin for the rest of their lives, you're going to have to take high-dose antipsychotic medication for the rest of your life." At discharge, I was told to take my meds, and oh, did we mention take your meds. I was also told to, quote-unquote, avoid stress. Of course, nobody told me that a life of boredom and meaninglessness is profoundly stressful. And in the beginning, I followed those instructions. I truly believed that I was incurably unwell, and I went and sat in a chair in my family's living room, and I felt, I received that prognosis as what I call a prognosis of doom, that essentially my life is over, that the life that I wanted, being that athletic coach, was of the distant past, that I needed to let that go, and that really all I needed to do was to avoid stress and take my pills. And honestly, this prognosis of doom was more devastating than the original distress of psychosis, because essentially what I was being told as a young person was that I had no future, that there was really no hope for me, that my future had already been written in the pages of some textbook. This feeling of living without hope, of living without a future, my future horizon had been eclipsed, was devastating, and a deep and profound despair began to settle in. This message of hopelessness and my response in anguish and despair, I think, was misinterpreted by my team as, quote, the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. I was not motivated, I didn't want to do anything, and of course I was on very high doses of haloperidol at the time, and that in itself was pretty disabling as well. So here's what I learned from that experience, that you can't organize recovery around nothingness. We can't organize recovery around a vacuum. My team was working from what I call now, looking back on it, the stabilization and maintenance model. Stabilization and maintenance model, not a recovery model. And the reason I say this is because my team used to say things like, "You're doing well for a schizophrenic." That's the kind of thing they would say to my family. Meaning that I sat in a chair doing nothing day in and day out, but I wasn't returning to the hospital. I was now no longer a recidivist, right? And I had extended community tenure, the markers of success, correct? Well, for my team, these were the markers of success. And that's why they continued to say I was doing well for a schizophrenic, okay? But for me, the price was devastating, right? The cure was worse than the illness. And so I feel that maintenance and stabilization bar is an extremely low bar. What we're about in the on-track model is recovery. We're engaging with people and letting them know that they can live their lives, not their diagnosis. There is a person in there, and they are still there. They have not gone away. And our job, our very first challenge in working with young folks, is to partner with that resilient young person. I want to share with you a really nice video that I made, and I call it my flower video, that sort of gets this message across in a very powerful way.
So, you are diagnosed with a mental illness. You're not alone. Many of us have faced mental health challenges and have passed through them to live a wonderful life. You can too. For a minute, imagine you are a flower. There you were, living your life before you were diagnosed. You had your friends, family, your hopes and dreams. Maybe you were working or going to school. Perhaps you had a hobby, played sports, or cultivated your spirituality. All of these made you the unique, never-to-be-repeated person you are. But then you got diagnosed with mental illness. The diagnosis seemed really big, almost like it defined you. Those other parts of you probably seemed smaller or like they had disappeared. When things feel this way, it's really important to remember that you are a person, not an illness. You are not a bipolar or a schizophrenic. You are more than that. All those parts of you are still there. You are not an illness. You are the one who is strong enough to make your journey of recovery. And you will need to mobilize and depend on all of these amazing parts of yourself in order to make your journey into the life you want for yourself. Your spirituality is still there to guide you. The people you love and people that you will meet along the way will be there to support you. Your work and school and hobbies will help you heal as you make your passage. And don't give up your hopes and dreams. They are the stars that will guide you as you navigate your recovery. Your diagnosis does not define you. It's just one aspect of the wonderful person you are. You can live your life, not your diagnosis. Now, try taking a deep breath in through your nose. And when you are ready, slowly exhale. Congratulations, you are on your way.
Wasn't that just wonderful? I really like that video. It's so important, and if I had my druthers, we would show that video to every single young person coming in for services. The message there, of course, is that I am a person, not an illness, and that human resilience does not end at diagnosis. Human resilience does not end at diagnosis. So I offer you these two memes that I really do like, and I am giving these to you as handouts as well. And I hope you use these memes and share them and put them up around the office. The first is, illnesses don't recover. People do. We can live our lives, not our diagnoses. And then the final thing I would like to offer you in relation to this story is a worksheet of the flower. This is a gift to you and the folks and families that you work with. This worksheet's in English and Spanish, and you can use it to begin to explore with young people their ongoing, evolving understanding of who they are in relation to the diagnosis. I can live my life, not my diagnosis.